Good evening, y'all. Hope you had an awesome, spectacular weekend. It was a really busy weekend for me. I had to take my car to the mechanic for a timing belt change. It's been 54,000 miles and 9 years, so I'm due. And also, my driver door latch broke, so my door won't close. It's being held closed by a ratchet strap. So I guess it's all part of the fun of having a 90s car. But anyway, I took my car to the mechanic for the timing belt and the door latch and drove it in, walked back home from the shop. They called me and said that the wrong belt was delivered and the door latch wasn't there, and they had to close at 2 o'clock, so they rescheduled me for Monday. So I had to walk back and get the car. Then I drove up to Wendy's, first time I've had fast food in months, I think. And then I had to work for a few hours. And then I had a birthday party last night. Not my birthday, a friend's birthday. I was there for like 6 hours. Then I worked a little bit more today. Then I had to do some meal planning, some grocery shopping. It was pouring down rain today. So busy times, good times. So anyway, yeah. So there, no chance to do video night. I was hoping to get around to doing that this weekend, but not going to be able to do that this weekend. So video night number 8, we'll have to save for next weekend. So I'll be sure to get that done. But anyway, I've been out of the political loop all weekend. I haven't looked at my X account. I haven't looked at anything political all weekend. So I just figured I'd dive into the For You section of my account, which is always filled with political stuff. Usually Democrat stuff for the most part, so looking forward to that. And I guess I'll just start with, let's see, this one, Adam Schiff, that's the top one. Well, see, now it's saying that I got more posts. I'm replying to Bernie Sanders with that one. So Bernie Sanders, he says that Elon Musk's 10-year, $1 trillion pay package is worth more than the combined pay of every elementary school teacher in America, every cashier, restaurant cook, farm worker, bartender. Insanity, billionaire tax now. So somebody's deeply envious, just my opinion. So anyway, getting back to Adam Schiff, Shifty Schiff, the killing of shipwrecked survivors at sea is a textbook violation of the laws of war. I don't believe there's any evidence that they did that. I know what they're talking about. That they bombed one of the narco terrorist vessels. I believe it was in the Caribbean Sea near Venezuela, like back in September, and there were 2 survivors. And the immediate take on the military, or whether if it was Pete Hegseth, Department of War, whoever spoke for that incident, they said that they pulled those survivors on board, and they were currently figuring out who has jurisdiction, where they're going to be transported to. Are they going to be put on trial for anything? Like, they were kind of left in limbo, and I haven't heard anything since then. But now Democrats, including Adam Schiff, they're claiming that they were gunned down after the boat was blown up, which I don't believe was true. Pretty sure it wasn't. So anyway, if Hegseth is so proud of the killing of these survivors, the Pentagon should release the full video, just like they have with other boat strikes. I believe that they did, but actually, you know what? Maybe they didn't. Look, I would agree with them on that if they didn't release the video, because look, I've shown it on The Swamp. I do The Swamp Monday through Friday. The video usually posts at 11 o'clock p.m. I've shown every single one that I've come across. I think there's been 21 or 22 boat strikes so far from the military with regard to the narco terrorists. And if they didn't release that one, I would encourage them to release it. So, wow, I can't believe I'm actually agreeing with Adam Schiff on something. So the American people deserve full transparency and accountability. And he's got this video. No idea what this video is. I haven't seen anything on this feed yet. Just going to go straight through it. The only thing that I did come across was the Bernie Sanders one. So anyway, let's just give this a play.
Based on what
see where this goes.
Do you believe these boat strikes are legal?
No, I don't. They're unlawful, they're unconstitutional, and killing 2 people who are shipwrecked at sea is also morally repugnant. I agree with Tom. We should do everything lawfully that we can to stop.
Well, does he have any proof that even happened? I mean, that's a pretty bold claim that our military is shooting people who are completely unarmed. That's a hell of a bold statement. I mean, what proof do you have that even happened in the first place, Adam?
The scourge of drugs coming into this country, but this is not at all lawful.
But that was a pretty big but. Well, I'm also against the scourge of drugs coming into the country, but I kind of am, though.
And frankly, if the Pentagon and our defense secretary is so proud of what they're doing, let the American people see that video. Let the American people see 2 people standing on a capsized boat or sitting on a capsized boat and deliberately killed, and decide for themselves whether
totally
they're proud of what the country is doing.
It sounds like that he actually saw the video. If that actually happened, they were standing on the top of the boat, waving a white flag, waving their arms. They're clearly not armed, and they were gunned down. Yeah, that's incredibly fucked up, and somebody should be held accountable for that. And I would argue convicted and probably sentenced to military prison. I wasn't in the military. I know there's a word for it, like the brig or something like that.
I can't imagine people will be proud of that. And as you pointed out, the Manual on the Law of War makes it explicit that killing people who are shipwrecked is illegal, is a violation of law.
Yeah, but dude, blown up a narco-terrorist vessel, I don't think that counts as a shipwreck. I mean, wouldn't a shipwreck include like running aground or getting beached or something like? Does that actually fall into that category? A vessel being blown up?
The most troubling thing I heard from Senator Cotton was when he said he really didn't matter what these people were doing on that capsized boat, whether they were signaling their distress and asking for rescue or what they were doing. It does matter. It does matter. And, one point I would share with him, and that is, I also think that all of these strikes are unlawful. They're a form of extrajudicial killing. These boats are not invading the United States.
What about Obama? What about Obama blowing up American citizens by drone? Were you heavily against that? I somehow doubt it.
In an armed assault. They're thousands of miles away. Some of them, maybe even this vessel, if reports are accurate, wasn't even heading to the United States. And for us,
I don't believe any of them are. And I'm honestly surprised he didn't take it in that direction. All of these narco-terrorist vessels, they're coming out of Venezuela, which is thousands of miles away from the nearest point of the United States. I'm assuming the tip of Florida. And I mean, they have outboard motors. And who was it? I believe it was Senator Rand Paul. He was the one who made that argument, which I also agree with, that these vessels are not beelining straight for the U.S. coastline because they'd have to refuel those boats like 10 times just to get to the U.S. And they're totally exposed to the sun. So it looks like they're just traveling from Venezuela to the nearest country. What is that, like Turks and Caicos or something like that, or Trinidad and Tobago or whatever. Anyway,
be engaged in this kind of unauthorized campaign of extrajudicial killing.
No, but it is authorized. It is authorized. The commander-in-chief has authorized it.
Couldn't be, I think, a more clear violation of the law.
But I know, I get what he's saying. Like congressional authorization. But you know what? Barack Obama, he didn't get congressional authorization to do what he was doing. At least I don't think he was. All right, Elon Musk, free speech has not been banned in the UK. And we will arrest anyone who says that it has. Okay. Rep Pramila Jayapal. ICE is kidnapping parents. Oh, okay. They're kidnapping parents now from outside their children's daycare centers. This is not what going after the worst of the worst looks like. Trump is terrorizing families and traumatizing children. Yeah, because Trump is out there personally slapping cuffs on people. From the Seattle Times. Yeah, because they're not heavily extremely biased at all. I mean, maybe I'll read like the first paragraph. I mean, the idea of this video is not really to get into the weeds with reading articles. That's usually what the swamp is meant for. But here, let me at least see if I can get around the paywall. Might be able to. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Seattle Times, I'm not familiar with using this method, but it probably won't work. But maybe, it looks like it might. It was a Thursday morning like any other. A mother was driving her 4-year-old son to his preschool. Oh no, set to private mode. Yeah, damn straight it's set to private mode. Oh, you gotta log in or subscribe. No thanks, Seattle Times. I ain't giving you any money. I could give you money for that. Sorry about that. Blame it on Jayapal. All right, so Anders Asland, no idea who this guy is. Vance makes his racism clear. He's an economist and an author. Russia, Ukraine, and Eastern Europe. Oh, Russia's crony capitalism. Okay, yeah, this dude's not biased. So Senator Hakamian, Spencer Hakamian. Founder, Tolu Capital Management, daily podcast on YouTube, daily shorts on TikTok, Instagram. Okay, it's totally reasonable to not want neighbors who speak other languages. I guess
who's out of the house is actually evicted from the house because there are people who are going to pay more for rent. And then what happens is 20 people move into a 3-bedroom house. 20 people from a totally different culture, totally different ways of interacting. Again, we can respect their dignity while also being angry at the Biden administration for letting that situation happen.
Yeah, but at the same time, look, that's probably not happening with every single immigrant that moves here. Not 100% of immigrants. Probably even like maybe the majority may not even be just like shacking up with like 20 other people. But there's rules, there's laws in place that legally prevent people from having the ability to do that. Like you're not allowed to rent an apartment and have like 27 people staying in a 2-bedroom apartment because it just like I'm not familiar with the laws specifically, but I do believe that there's laws out there that prevent you from being able to do that, especially those who are not on the lease and things like that.
And recognizing that their next door neighbors are going to say, well, wait a second, what is going on here? I don't know these people. They don't speak the same language that I do. And because there are 20 in the house next door, it's a little bit rowdier than it was when there was just a family of 4, a family of 5. It is totally reasonable and acceptable for American citizens to look at their next door neighbors and say, I want to live next to people who I have something in common with. I don't want to live next to 4 families of strangers. And the fact that we had...
All right, well, they kind of cut that short. All right.
Who's out of the house?
Okay, so anyway, I guess that happened over the weekend. Senator Jackie Rosen, Democrat. That's what the badge there is. That's the Senate Democrat badge. So if Senate Republicans block a clean extension, see what they mean by clean? By clean, that means not changing anything about the Affordable Care Act, which means allowing all the fraud, all the waste, all the abuse that comes with the Affordable Care Act that we've been dealing with for over a decade to just get cleanly passed so the insurance companies can continue collecting tens of billions of dollars a year, courtesy of the American taxpayers. I wonder how much big pharma money that she's taken. I bet it's been a lot. ACA premium tax credits, healthcare costs will go up by hundreds or even thousands of dollars for hardworking families. Democrats have worked in good faith for months to try to stop this massive spike in costs. Yeah, including, and I know you want to say it, but you're not going to, including shutting down the government. It seems Washington Republicans just don't care. She got ratioed pretty ruthlessly. I can only guess what they're saying in the comments. Probably a little bit of pushback, because that's typically how ratios work. When you only get 54 likes and you get 175 comments, it's usually littered with people who have a lot to say, which is against of what your messaging is. Obamacare was written by the insurance companies. Higher prices was always going to happen. Americans are tired of fraud, abuse, and big pharma. How much are you taking to sell us out? Probably hundreds of thousands. Who passed the ACA into law? Why it doesn't need tax credits? Who put those tax credits in place originally? Yeah, I think we know the answer to that. 100% Democrats, 0% Republicans. Bold, Democrats just want to throw billions of dollars at an epic failure. That doesn't fix anything. Yeah, because the insurance companies, man. They got the backs of the Democrats. Or Democrats got the insurance companies' backs. It sounds like you want me to pay hundreds of dollars for someone else's shitty health care and F you. No more crony capitalism and you stealing our tax money to give corporate welfare to health insurance companies and they give you kickbacks. This is all it takes to get laws passed. We call it bribery. They call it lobbying. Hell yeah, man. Close K Street. They need to dismantle that. The cranky American getting miles out of this bad boy. So if we don't extend tax credits, no one can afford healthcare. Be honest. I am honest, but that means Obamacare is a complete failure. Thank you. All right. Here's another one. Political cartoon from Michael Ramirez. Okay, Republicans, she's all yours. Yeah, really. That almost perfectly illustrates it. Gunther Eagleman, maybe you should have read Obamacare before you passed it. Yeah, I'm sure none of them did. Families don't need D versus R finger pointing. They need affordable health care. ACA subsidies were always a temporary patch, not a fix. Exactly. That's what they were. They were always temporary subsidies. If Washington cared, both parties would stop the theatrics and pass real reform that lowers costs for good. That's what we're working on. At least that's what I would like to think that Republicans are working on, but they still haven't put anything out for the public to view or for really anybody, Democrats, the public, whoever. I'm still waiting to see what they're going to put on the table because you know that Democrats are going to shut down the government again if nothing happens by the end of January. So, all right. So anyway, let's get back to the next post from Chris Murphy, another Democrat. And he says, it's important to remember there are 2 scandals here. The administration has likely committed war crimes, but the entire operation, which now includes 24 attacks, is illegal. In our democracy, the president cannot wage war without the consent of the people. Isn't it funny how all the Democrats, they're all pushing this Venezuela stuff now? So it was all about Ukraine, then it was all about Palestine, now it's all about Venezuela, and just the rank and file, the useful idiot, progressive Democrats, they're just in lockstep, take out the Ukrainian flag, insert Palestine flag, take out Palestine flag, insert Venezuela flag. So Aaron Rupar Bergman, did you see any evidence of them trying to use a radio in the video you saw? Tom Cotton, well, I saw lots of evidence of them standing on the boat that had been capsized. Merman, that wasn't my question. Did you see any evidence? No, I didn't. So yeah, I mean, if they were standing on a capsized boat, clearly unarmed, and they were standing out there, obviously, they don't have any posing any threat to the military at that point. If they killed them when that happened, yeah, that's a problem. At least in my opinion, that's a big problem.
No, it doesn't mean they weren't trying to access communications equipment on the boat, or that they didn't have any of their drug trafficking pals trying to come.
Isn't that what we got Gizmo for?
Waters,
Put them in
just
Gizmo.
off the coast of Venezuela, that's a known area for drug cartels.
Did you see any evidence of them trying to use a radio in the video you saw?
Well, I saw lots of evidence of them standing on the boat that had been capsized.
That wasn't my question. Did you see any evidence of them
trying to get it back up, trying to flip it over?
Did you see any evidence of them trying to use a radio?
No, I didn't, John. No, John, but they were clearly not incapacitated. They were not distressed. One guy took his T-shirt off like he was sunbathing. They were trying to get the boat back up.
Or maybe waving a white flag.
Their mission of spreading these drugs all across America.
Did they get the boat back up?
That's what they were doing, and that's why Admiral Bradley ordered the second strike. Well, no, they didn't, because we killed them, and we were right to kill them, and Admiral Bradley was totally justified in a decision he made. A decision, by the way, that was broadcast on multiple secure screens at the Pentagon and Fort Bragg, and that hundreds of people watched in real time with probably dozens of JAG lawyers. So what the Washington Post said last week was a complete lie. They owe an apology to Pete Hegseth, and especially they owe an apology to Admiral Mitch Bradley. He's a highly decorated career Navy SEAL.
Well, the Washington Post reported there was a second strike, which at first the administration seemed to deny. Let me ask you this specific question.
Okay, all right. So then they move on from there. All right. Not sure what we're going to get out of that. If they were indeed standing on the top of the boat and then they just blew out the boat again. I don't know, man. All right, so James Tallarico, Elon Musk is about to become the first trillionaire. The reason poverty exists in the wealthiest country on earth isn't because we can't feed the poor, it's because we can't satisfy the rich. We should tax trillionaires out of existence. So people who have what you don't have, you just want to literally steal everything that they have because they have what you don't have. That's basically what he's arguing for.
The reason poverty exists in the wealthiest country on earth is not because we can't feed the poor.
Yeah, but dude, the problem that we have in America is that our impoverished people are fatter than the rich. The people who are homeless, like they weigh more than rich people do.
Because we can't satisfy
like
the
they're
rich.
literally
Elon
starving
Musk
to death.
is about to become the first trillionaire. He's about to make more money than every elementary school teacher in America combined.
And
Do
he's
we
an
really
immigrant.
believe one man is worth more than every elementary school teacher?
Oh, here we go.
Why do we
Bernie
have a
Sanders talking
trillionaire
points.
when there are kids without enough to eat? Why do we have a trillionaire when
somebody's
cancer
jealous.
patients are going bankrupt? Why do we have a trillionaire when veterans are sleeping out on the street? I'm all for success, but this is not
Most of that's
success.
failed Democrat policies.
This is hoarding. What leads a person to accumulate
Hoarding?
more money than they could
Not
possibly
hoarding.
spend in 100 lifetimes when there are people starving in this one? The reason poverty exists in the wealthiest country on earth is not because we can't feed the poor. It's because we can't satisfy the rich.
See, and what they don't really get into is into the weeds with regard to having $1 trillion worth of stock or having a stock valuation that's $1 trillion. I doubt that they're, well, and look, I could be wrong, but I somehow doubt that they're going to be sending him $1 trillion worth of liquid cash. I mean, isn't that $1 trillion, isn't that going to be tied up in some sort of stocks and shares and things like that? And I mean, if he were to sell, I don't know, like hundreds of billions of dollars worth of stock, I mean, as he's selling it, it's going to tank the value of the stock anyway, because that tends to happen.
But what we can do is tax trillionaires out of existence.
In other words, nobody can be rich in America. We don't want rich people in America. We want everybody to be equally poor and worthless. So if he, starts at the trillionaire status, then once they're satisfied with that, now they're bloodthirsty for billionaires. So now we're going to tax them out of existence. And then it's going to trickle down to the millionaires, then the 100,000-aires, And then it's going to get to the point where we are all equally, absolutely dirt poor, worthless. But where is all that money going to go? It's not going to go into the hands of the poor and the needy. No, it's going to go to the ultra elites, those with the political power.
And use that money to guarantee food, healthcare, and housing for every single American.
All right. Well, I'm pretty sure, food is basically guaranteed at this point. If you don't have a steady income, you just apply for SNAP benefits and they give you shitloads of money to buy food. And if you're sick or if you need healthcare, you walk in the emergency room because it's illegal for them not to at least stabilize you when you're in the ER. I mean, that is actually a law. If you go into the emergency room with no money and no insurance, they still have to treat you because that's the law. All right, Senator Scott Wiener. Admiral Rachel Levine serves as a top health official, first ever Senate confirmed trans person. The bullies running our country just changed her official portrait to her dead name. Uh-oh, they're dead naming. We'll change it back when we tear down Trump's ballroom and remove his birthday as a park holiday. Oh my God, these people are fucking deranged. HHS changed the name of transgender health leader on her official portrait. I mean, I'm even kind of skeptical that they even did that. But if this individual officially changed his name to, I don't know, like, what was it? Rachel? Like, if his original name was like, what, Rick or something? I don't even know. But if he changed it from Rachel or Rick to Rachel, and if that's his, like, official name on his driver's license, then, I mean, okay, yeah, don't change the name. If that's his legal name, then fine. You're misgendering, Spacephone. How dare you? All right, CBS Evening News. ICE actions are making headlines in cities across the U.S. In Minneapolis, residents confronted suspected ICE agents to protect kids. In New Orleans, agents chased a U.S. citizen amid a 5,000 arrest crackdown. In New York City, a 6-year-old was separated from his father and taken into custody, but his location remains unknown. Well, dude, they're not going to give you specific details like you, the mainstream news. What right do you think you have to know where children are? Children that are not yours. They're in the custody of DHS or DCF, I mean, Department of Children and Families, or whatever the hell they call them in New York. Most likely he was probably separated because his father committed a crime. You know, like if I committed a bunch of felonies, like if I robbed a bank and my kids are in the car and I run out to the car and drive off and get into a high-speed police chase, they're not going to take the kids with me to jail, now are they? No. That ain't gonna happen.
Immigration enforcement is escalating in Minneapolis. Its mayor signed an executive order this week barring agents from conducting ICE operations on all city-owned property. People in this Minneapolis neighborhood took to the streets with whistles to confront what they believed were federal immigration agents in
Chicago did the
near
same thing
school.
with the public
I feel
property.
That my presence
doesn't really
as a
matter.
neighbor is important, and I want kids to feel safe.
ICE began conducting enhanced operations in Minnesota this week, focused primarily on the city's Somali residents. Shackled detainees were loaded on a chartered jet and sent to Omaha, Nebraska, according to the Minnesota Star Tribune. Leave me alone! In New Orleans, Louisiana,
oh yeah, we're gonna get used to this video. They're only gonna be playing this 1,000 times a day.
Chased a U.S. citizen to her home.
A U.S. citizen.
Started telling him like I'm born and raised here, like I'm a U.S. citizen. And he did not.
Yeah, she matched the description of someone who is a criminal illegal, an illegal immigrant who committed crimes inside the United States. And she matched the description, so they chased after her. But before they chased after her, they asked for her ID, and she just took off running. So then they chased after her because they believed that it was the individual that they were after. It obviously does look bad, but
and there are mounting questions tonight in New York City about the whereabouts of first grader Yaoshin Zhang. He was separated from his migrant father last week when they reported to a scheduled immigration hearing. Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani.
A 6-year-old boy who was enrolled at PS 166Q was since detained and separated from his father, and we still don't know his location.
A Homeland Security spokesperson
what right do you have
tells
to get his
CBS
location? You're not
News
his
the
father. You're not
was
his family
acting
member.
so disruptive and aggressive that he endangered the child's well-being. And the Department of Homeland Security says that family was given an order of removal and that 6-year-old is now with the Office of Refugee Resettlement, but did not disclose exactly where.
Well, you don't have a right to know that. They just told you where he is. He's in the Office of Refugees and Resettlement or whatever the hell. So he's under the care of officials. So, Rep. Ted Lieu, you don't just shoot up the enemy if they're defenseless and not capable of doing anything. We need a full investigation for war crimes. Yeah, strap in. This is all they're probably going to be talking about, probably for weeks and weeks. Well, actually, you know what? I might take that back, because aren't they supposed to be releasing the Epstein files within a week? I think it was like on December 15th or 16th. Here, let me check. I think it's coming up. I think it was like in the middle of December when they said it was supposed to be released. December 19th. Let's see. The Epstein files are scheduled for release by the U.S. Department of Justice December 19th, per the Epstein Files Transparency Act signed into law by President Trump on November 19th. This mandates public disclosure of unclassified DOJ materials on Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell within 30 days. The redactions for victim privacy may apply. Earlier phases were released in February of 2025, and additional estate documents in November 2025. So they're going to be redacting the names of victims. And then the Democrats are quite obviously going to spin that and say that, oh, well, those aren't the names of the victims. That's Trump's name that they keep redacting. They're not allowed to do that. So we want to see the full files. We want to see all the files that are unredacted. I don't know, but all right. So anyway, let's give this a quick
What
watch.
do you think should have happened rather than that second so-called double tap strike then?
The double tap.
They should have done what they did with another subsequent strike on the boat. They should have rescued the survivors. The whole concept why we even, for example, have prisoners of war is you don't just shoot up the enemy if they're defenseless and if they are not capable of doing anything other than surviving in debris in the water. I mean, it is just a subtle part of the law of war that you don't go ahead and kill shipwreck survivors. And that's why we need an investigation by Department of Justice. And if the Trump Department of Justice does not investigate, I guarantee you a future administration will, because there are no statute of limitations to war crimes because of how heinous the act is.
When we blow up the filibuster, when we pack the Supreme Court with 21 liberal justices, we're going to get to the bottom of it come hell or high water. Pun intended. Yeah, it does look bad. And they should release the footage. And if it does show people standing on top of the boat waving their shirt as if they might be like trying to simulate like a white flag or something, yeah, that's going to look really bad. And they absolutely should not have done that. So I don't even know. I haven't seen it. I'm just now hearing about that. So Congressman Gabe Amo, the Reverend Al Sharpton, what is your level of confidence in the Pentagon leadership now? Me? None. We need transparency and answers ASAP. Show the video footage. Okay, whatever. I'm just going to skip that because I've already heard it twice. So we already know what they're talking about. So Elizabeth Warren, I'm asking Microsoft, NVIDIA, Meta, Apple, Amazon, Union Pacific, and Comcast, all of the companies that I'm so jealous of because I don't have billions of dollars, about their donations to Trump's big gold ballroom. So what? They wanted to donate it. These companies all have important antitrust business before the federal government. Are these donations wink and nod payments for political favors? Oh, give me a break. Democrats press firms about Trump ballroom donations. Lawmakers, including Pocahontas Warren, asked about Apple, NVIDIA, Meta, so on and so forth. Favorable treatment. U.S.-born citizens. All right, so yeah, ratio. Should I get in the comment? I don't even know if I should get in the comments or not, but maybe I'll just read a couple of them. So, Wall Street Journal, I don't know, I guess I'll link it. I believe that is paywalled, by the way. So, if you have an account with them, yeah, see, it's paywalled, so it's pretty much useless for me to even link that. But maybe you got it. Maybe you've got a subscription to them. You can check that out. Quiet, pale feather, zip it, Democrat. You and your shitty domestic terrorist party are no longer taken seriously. Donors to our White House. Let's talk about your donors, shall we? Top 20 member recipients of money from pharmaceutical health products 2019-2020. Yep, she got $821,000. Look at Bernie Sanders. You know how he's always talking about universal basic income. He's super jealous of Elon Musk and all his billions and trillions of dollars. But yet he's taking $1.5 million in a single year, well, from 2019-2020, from Big Pharma. He'll pay pale feather. Why don't you explain how you filled your own pockets with all that big pharma money? Yeah, they're kind of hypocritical. I'm asking you about your donations received from Big Pharma. Stockahontas needs stock investing info. Oh yeah, so you anti-American POS. How much money have you recently gotten from Big Pharma? We the people want to know. Yeah, they don't want to talk about their problems. They just want to blame everything on Republicans. So Melanie De Arrigo, U.S.-born citizens commit violent crimes at significantly higher rates than undocumented immigrants. There have been 0 days in America that an illegal alien has not committed a violent crime. And that is from Scott Pressler. All right, Congresswoman Sarah Jacobs. By the way, that one was also ratioed. Let's see, under Donald Trump's presidency, costs for everything are skyrocketing and over 1 million people have lost their jobs. And from CNBC, I guess I'll link that, but Congressman Maxine Dexter, another Democrat. Today, I was proud to stand with healthcare workers in solidarity against Trump's cruelty. Oregon leads with compassion, dignity, and justice. We don't abandon our neighbors, and we do not allow cruelty to be carried out in the shadows. Don't even know what the hell you're talking about. Doctors defending democracy. Whatever. So Rep. Don Bacon, Reagan Institute poll shows U.S. support for NATO is at an all-time high. So why is the administration so hostile to NATO? And attitudes toward NATO at an all-time high. So what is this from, though? It doesn't have an actual source, at least not that I can see. Something Reagan. I think I'm seeing Reagan there. All right. So Rep. Mike Levin. There are only 25 days left in the year, and House Republicans have still no plan to extend the ACA tax credits. No, they're not going to, dude. It ain't gonna happen. You got to reform this shit. If they fail, millions will face crushing costs. This is not politics, it's real life. Well, if the Democrats didn't fuck everything up with Obamacare, we wouldn't be in this situation. A retired 62-year-old teacher told me his bill will rise $700 a month. He may take early Social Security just to get by. Yep, he should blame nobody but this dude. Well, I don't know if he was in office when Obamacare was passed, but I'm sure he's certainly voting to extend those insane subsidies. A 51-year-old mom of two said her family costs will double to more than $50,000 a year. She's considering going without care and filing or risking bankruptcy. Yeah, I'm not so sure I believe that. $50,000 a year. A 60-year-old shared that her premiums will jump from about $300 to more than $1,400 a month. She does not know how she will cover food, rent, and healthcare. So Obamacare sounds like a very unfair system, doesn't it? Like some people, their premiums are only going to rise by like $800 or $700. Meanwhile, there's others that are going to raise to like what was that, like $5,000 a month? I mean, like why is Obamacare just so biased toward one family and not so much against the other family? So Senator Cortez Masto charging unaccompanied children thousands of dollars a fee for seeking safety in the United States puts them at risk of exploitation by cartels and predators. Yeah, that's why they should remain in the country for which they were born and remain with their family, who should also remain where exactly they are. So this policy Republicans passed into law is simply cruel. I wrote legislation to reverse it and protect these children. And I guess we'll see what she has to say here.
Are fleeing for their lives coming to this country.
Why? What are they fleeing from? Are these countries war-torn? No. I'm not aware of any brutally war-torn country in Central America or South America. I know that there's certain pockets here and there where there's issues going on. But if they need asylum so desperately, they're supposed to do what's legally required, and that's applying for asylum in the nearest country. And why are these children off by themselves? Where are the parents at anyway?
Further exploited. They don't have the money. And if they know that they need $5,000.
Well, with all due respect, lady, why is this America's problem? Why is this the United States of America's problem? Why isn't this the country from where they're coming from? Why isn't their government's problem? It is their problem. They need to deal with it.
Where do you think they're going to get it? From some cartel or some predator?
They sure shouldn't be getting it from the American taxpayer.
To keep them out of harm's way, and so they're not victims of sex trafficking or exploitation. Well, this administration has just put them into that category. And that's why this legislation is so important. We need to continue to fight for our youth.
For our youth? They're not our youth, dude. You're talking about foreigners. You're talking about people who are not even Americans, you bonehead.
Whether they're in this country or they're coming to this country to seek asylum.
Yeah, well, see, that's the problem. They're trying to seek asylum by skipping over countries in order to claim asylum in the United States because they want economic asylum, and that's not how it works. Conducting an illegal war against Venezuela, Ed Markey deploying the National Guard against our own citizens, starting a nuclear arms race, and now asking for another $900 billion for Secretary of War crimes Pete Hegseth. Trump and Republicans are out of control. Senator Patty Murray, Trump pardoned a Honduran drug lord who helped move tons of cocaine into the U.S. Trump does not care about being tough on crime, stopping drug trafficking, or keeping Americans safe. This is corrupt beyond belief, and everyone should call it out. That was 2 hours ago. Pretty much old news at this point. I mean, he was pardoned several days ago. I don't really know the details on that. I don't know why Trump even pardoned him to begin with. I think, look, if he was convicted, even if it was, if there were like evidence that was fudged or if something was stacked against them, whatever. I mean, especially if there's a jury trial, if the jury found him guilty, then he should be going through the appeals process. But whatever, I'm not knowledgeable about all that.
The Trump administration likes to pretend they care about drug trafficking. But then Trump turns around and grants a full, unconditional pardon to an Honduran drug lord who was convicted for helping move.
Well, we already know that Democrats, they're all pro-drug trafficking because in some of those states like Oregon, I think Washington State also did that. They legalized all drugs. Yeah, just come up to Oregon, come up to Washington. You can shoot up on the street. You can do whatever you want. No problem.
Tons of cocaine into the U.S. This guy literally walked out of prison because of Trump, who said,
I feel very good about it.
Trump doesn't care about stopping illegal drugs. If he did, he'd stop.
Of course, we don't know exactly where that Trump statement came from.
And he would stop defunding programs that support.
How do you feel about the ballroom, President Trump? I feel very good about it.
This is the most corrupt and pro-crime administration in history.
Dude, she's even chopping up her own words. Did you hear that? Did you hear that they like chopped it up in between?
Most corrupt and pro-crime administration in history.
Why are you trying to chop up your own words, lady? What the hell? So the Lincoln Project, Mike Johnson, we've had one of the most productive Congresses in the history of the institution. House GOP recently caused the longest government shutdown in U.S. history and took a paid vacation for 54 days on your dime. Nope, Democrats. Democrats kept it shut down. The Democrats in the Senate, they did that.
We stay unified. There is absolutely nothing that we can't achieve, and we've already demonstrated that this Congress. We've had one of the most productive Congresses in the history of the institution.
Do you need the president to get on the phone to some?
I don't know about all that either.
GOP members in the House
about the voting reform, the SAVES Act. Pass it, dude.
At a couple of junctures along the way where we've had
also the lobbying, or not lobbying, the insider trading. Yeah, dude, get rid of lobbying while you're at it.
Which I can't afford. Now remember, in previous years,
then you'll be productive.
25, 30, 40 seat majorities. I have a razor-thin majority. I have to get every single Republican on most days, and so
I'm a wartime speaker.
We're going to get there.
Separate.
All right, I played that the other day. I think I played that on Friday, maybe. Kristen Gillibrand, this is devastating. President Trump and congressional Republicans are abandoning cancer patients and survivors who rely on the enhanced ACA tax credits to buy health care. Well, if it wasn't for the Democrats ruining our healthcare system, then we wouldn't have such a bad problem. Healthcare was actually not too bad before Obamacare. 96% of cancer patients and survivors receiving healthcare tax credits say they would have difficulty getting the care they need without the enhanced tax credits. Excuse me. Anyway, Kelly, 23 people have died in ICE custody. A Chinese immigrant named Chao Feng Gi was found hanging with his arms and legs tied behind his back. Randall Esquivel was deported in a vegetative state and died soon after. People are being tortured, neglected, and disabled. I mean, that's, unsubstantiated. Yeah, I actually looked that up the other day. Up to 23 people, it's been reported, have died in ICE custody, the majority of whom committed suicide. And I believe there were a couple who ended up having a heart attack. I think one or two had a stroke, medical issues. So Rep. Premiula J. Powell, 23 people died in immigration detention this year under the Trump administration, and ICE seems to be lying about the circumstances. Oh, they seem to be lying. See how they frame this stuff? They told Congress that Chao Feng Gi died by suicide, but he was found with his hands and feet tied. That simply doesn't add up. Well, how can you prove that his hands and feet were even tied? For all we know, you're just completely full of shit and you're just making all that up.
A shocking and record-breaking 23 people have...
Where's the proof, dude? Why are we listening to you? Why don't we listen to the official who actually found him hanging and can substantiate with confirming that he, with his own two eyes, saw him with his hands and his feet tied.
Already died in immigration detention just this year under the Trump administration. Not only is ICE not reporting these deaths as they are legally required to,
Wait, how many people have been apprehended, have been in a detention custody or ICE custody? Is it in the hundreds of thousands of people that have been apprehended? If it's only 26 people, that's actually not very bad numbers. If you're talking hundreds of thousands of people that are, like, how many people incarcerated in the United States. There's like 2 million people that are incarcerated in the United States. How many inmates in prison have died this year? I bet it's probably a shockingly high number. So when you compare it to that, it's 23.
Also
I don't know.
seem
It
to
doesn't
be
seem like a
flat
whole
out
hell of a
lying
lot.
about these cases. Chao Fang Gay died in ICE custody.
Of course, there's no way she could prove that
August
ICE,
5th.
they're killing
According
people.
to ICE, he died by suicide. But according to his attorney, he was found with his hands and feet tied. Both of these things cannot be true.
Well, why don't you tell us what's really on your mind? Why don't you tell us what you really think happened? I think ICE horrifically tortured him. They flogged him. They tied him up, and then they lynched him.
We are here today to say enough. A shocking and
Enough. It's so shocking. The dignity. All right. Senator Dick Durbin. This week, Senate Republicans will be faced with a choice. Will they work together with Senate Democrats to keep health insurance premium costs down for 22 million Americans? Or will they remain silent and allow premiums to skyrocket? Mary Moriarty. Our Somali community members make our state vibrant, and they should be celebrated. This administration is lying, period. We stand side by side with our neighbors of Somali descent. Okay, well, when the proof comes out that hundreds of billions of dollars was stolen, well, hundreds of millions with an M, have been stolen from the Minnesota taxpayers, and millions of which were sent to terrorist organizations in Somalia. Are you still going to hold that statement? Probably not. Well, I don't think that they're just going to admit one way or the other, but supposedly with the Treasury Department. Treasury Department's investigating all that with the hundreds of millions of dollars that was defrauded from the Minnesota taxpayers, and they're going to find out exactly where it came from, whose hands it went into, and who passed the money along, and how much of it went to these terrorist organizations. And it's going to be interesting to see if any elected officials had any hand in that, which probably did. Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty. Let us be very super ultra mega clear. There are no roving Somali gangs terrorizing people. Well, I mean, there's not today because it's just too damn cold. There's too much snow out there. They're not going out there terrorizing people right now. It's too cold out. The Trump administration is once again using a campaign of hatred and fear to try to divide us.
This is
He will not divide us. He will not divide us.
There are reports that the Trump administration is planning to send ICE agents here to the Twin Cities to target our neighbors of Somali descent.
Yeah, you mean sanctuary states, right? Yeah, damn straight they're going there.
This is part of a recent pattern to single out our Somali community members. This is rooted in the idea that if they spew hatred, it will divide us. But we won't let that happen.
It's only the left who spews hatred.
There are no roving gangs of Somali people in this community harassing, threatening, doing anything to any of our community members. And let me...
Wait a minute. So you're saying there's not been a single Somali person, not one person of Somali descent or a Somali immigrant who has done anything illegal to an American citizen in any way, shape, or form in the state of Minnesota?
Repeat that again, because I've
heard
repeat it
this
again. Often.
There's not been a single Somali ever.
Gangs of Somalis targeting or harassing or doing anything inappropriate to any community members. Those are simply lies. It is not true.
Really?
Our office,
I'm not so
at the
sure I
Hennepin
believe
County
that.
Attorney's Office here, will not assist in any way, shape, or form in any of these ICE raids. From our small business owners to our healthcare workers, to our Lyft and Uber drivers, to children growing up in Cedar Riverside and families shopping at the Carmel Mall, our Somali community members are what makes Minneapolis one of the finest places in the world to live. We will not let Trump's hatred divide us. We will stand side by side with our Somali
raise the flag
community
again?
members.
So that way 4chan can take that flag back down, sitting out there in the middle of nowhere, replace it with a Pepe puppet with the Make America Great Again hat. Fuck Shia LaBeouf. All right, so where did this go? Grok and... No, I don't want to go to the history. I want to start a new one. All right, have there been any crimes committed against Americans by Somali immigrants in Minnesota? Yes, there have been isolated cases of violent crimes, including assaults and a 2016 mall stabbing that injured 10 people, claimed by ISIS Broader claims of disproportionate crime rates, e.g. 80% of Twin Cities crimes, are inaccurate and unsubstantiated, as official stats don't track by ethnicity and show immigrants have lower incarceration rates than U.S.-born residents. Most reported issues involve fraud schemes, stealing over $1 billion from social programs. Oh, but that's not real crimes, though. Harming taxpayers, but not direct violence against individuals. But yeah, but there have been isolated cases of violent crimes because, of course, there is. Of course, there is. I mean, like in every community, you're going to find crimes. It's just the way it is. All right, Gavin Newsom, great work with Donald Trump. Breaking beef prices hit new all-time high, according to Fred. And when was this? Let's see, 2020. I'm assuming that's probably January of 2020. Well, hold on. It's just slightly after 2025. I don't see an actual date as to, you know, how current it is. But yeah, it climbed a hell of a lot under Biden, didn't it? Like, that was probably, what, like 2020 to like probably roughly right about here. And when Trump won, it looks like it might have leveled off. It kind of went down again. But yeah, and then it started jumping up again, which federal government, they're investigating the beef industry right now with regard to the middlemen, the packers, the beef packers industry, which apparently they're engaging in funny business. What that funny business might be, I don't know. But I guess they're being investigated. But yeah, man, beef, it's ridiculously expensive, and I definitely did not agree with Trump when he said that we have so much beef that we're able to export it to Australia. We're gonna open up our beef doors and export it, our beef industry to Australia. I don't think that's a good idea at all because beef's too expensive here. I think we should flood the market with beef in order to tank the price of it. All right, Rep. LaMonica McIver, this week in the 10th. Team LaMonica was out in our community celebrating the season with our neighbors, visiting folks who provide New Jersey District 10 healthcare and more. That is very lovely. I have nothing to push back on against that. That's actually a nice post. All right, Rokana. Babies born in America are born equal citizens. Read the history of the 14th Amendment. As Akhil Amar has shown, Congress explicitly understood at the time that even those born in America to parents not legally present were citizens. Well, I think we're going to have the Supreme Court determine that now, aren't we? Because the Supreme Court agreed to take that up. So the Supreme Court is going to decide if birthright citizenship is going to continue being a thing or not. Because they've got that foreigner pregnancy tourism where they're like 8-9 months pregnant, and then they're like, hey, I just want to willy-nilly take a vacation to the United States. Oh no, my water broke. And oh, I guess I have this U.S. citizen for a child now. Stephen Miller, of all the destructive and ruinous policies, oh my God, dude, it's kind of a long one, but ruinous policies aimed at the heart of our republic, few can compete with birthright citizenship. Every illegal alien, foreign visitor, and visa scammer merely by giving birth on U.S. soil can access unlimited welfare for life through their American child and send the extra cash back home to support their foreign village. Well, yeah, dude, that's the entire idea. That's the whole reason they do it. That same child is granted full voting privileges on his 18th birthday, making illegal aliens and their descendants one of the largest voting blocs in the U.S. That's exactly why they're doing it. Under birthright citizenship, a terrorist and his terrorist wife can commit immigration fraud, come here as tourists, perpetrate a terrorist attack, give birth, and have an American child. Birthright citizenship is an atrocity, flatly and flagrantly incompatible with any concept of nationhood. Well, it seems like the easiest thing, or probably the most convenient thing that they could do, is just make it. Now, I don't know how they would be able to word it, like how they would go about passing it. But if you're a foreigner and you're pregnant, you can't travel to the U.S. So that would clean it up. You know, I don't know. Maybe that's a stupid idea. All right, U.S. Rep. Brittany Pedersen, just unbelievable. Uh-oh, Sherry, you're getting emotional already. The amount of damage this administration is going to cause in such a short amount of time. RFK Jr. and his hand-picked panel of anti-vaxxers are going to undo decades of progress, progressivism. Vaccines are safe and effective. They totally save lives. Every parent should be terrified. I know I am. I mean, that's, yeah, hepatitis B vaccine, but hepatitis B you can only get through sexual contact, right? Or sharing needles. I mean, isn't that true? So if a baby is going to get a hepatitis B vaccine, that seems completely pointless, but I don't know, maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe you can get it from like coughing on somebody else. Like, can you cough on somebody and give them hepatitis B? Probably not. How is it transmitted? It's transmitted through blood, sharing needles, transfusions, which is rare now, through sex, unprotected vaginal, anal, or oral. Also, mother to baby during birth. Okay, well, if that's the case, then hepatitis B vaccine isn't really going to fix that. At least I don't believe it would. Sharing personal items, razors, and toothbrushes with infected blood, not spread by casual contact, food, water, or coughing and sneezing. So then, yeah, then why? Oh shit, I forgot to put short. Now it's going to give me a long-winded answer. Babies get the hepatitis B vaccine at birth within 12 to 24 hours for these key evidence-based reasons. Perinatal transmission is common and dangerous. About 90% of infants infected at birth from an infected mother will develop chronic hepatitis B. But will that, I don't know. Like, because they're going to give the, like, if that's the case, if they could get it from a mother who is infected with hepatitis B, then they're probably going to vaccinate the baby even after RFK Jr. and then they pass this new measure, which is going to prevent babies getting the hepatitis B vaccine. I'm sure that's probably, there's going to be an exception to that if the mother has hepatitis B. One to 2%, only 1 to 2%. %? Is it 100%? 84% of infants received the full 3-dose hepatitis B vaccine series by age 1. Birth dose within 24 hours, 45% globally. Globally, despite the fact that only, 1 to 2% of pregnant women have chronic hepatitis B. So if they don't have the hepatitis B, then there's no problem. So why would the infant get a hepatitis B vaccine if the mother doesn't have hepatitis B? So what's the other one? Many infected mothers don't know they have it. Okay, well, wouldn't that make the argument that when you're pregnant, because you go see a doctor several times while you're pregnant, correct? I believe that to be the case. I mean, my ex, she had a baby. I've got a daughter. So that's what we did. We had to go, I believe, every month, if not more often than that. So during that whole process, why don't you just get tested for hepatitis B? I mean, how much does that really cost to get a test for hepatitis B? So that's probably the standard in the United States. Maybe they're talking about the whole world with regard to like Asia and Africa. So universal birth dose vaccination protects babies even when maternal screening misses or fails. The vaccine is extremely effective at preventing transmission, early protection against future risks, and it's safest to vaccine early. All right, well, that's the argument. But anyway, I guess we'll just move on. So Senator Heidi Campbell, MAGA, is committing war crimes, bombing fishing boats off the coast of Venezuela, ostensibly because they're carrying drugs. Well, can you prove that they're fishing boats? Like, look, I've already shown on the swamp. I think I've shown every single video that the Department of War has released with these vessels, and I haven't seen any fishing equipment. I haven't seen what appeared to be like nets and fishing rods and anything of that nature. They just look like flat boats with outboard motors and these very oddly shaped, giant brick-shaped objects that are just piled up into these boats. So it doesn't exactly look like that they're out there fishing. So no proof that this is true. Yeah, there is no proof that they're fishing, dude. OFC, it's really about power and oil. They're not a big drug-pushing country and releasing this heinous criminal. And that's a pretty vivid imagination that he's got. Yeah, except that Venezuelan oil it's some of the dirtiest oil in the world, and it has to go through an extensive refining process. There's no end to the grift. Hello, I'm Russ Albrecht. I was sentenced to double life in prison, 40 years, no possibility of parole for selling drugs on the internet. I paid Donald Trump $1 million bribe and received a full pardon. I don't know anything about that. Maybe that happened. I don't know. Senator Andy Kim, I'm deeply concerned by this administration's actions in the Caribbean. Here we go again. I think we've already been down this road. Not only does it continue a trend of lawlessness, but it also is part of Trump's efforts to reshape how our military is used, and it's not for the good of the American people. Dude, it's got to be just so repetitive, boring, annoying, frustrating to be a progressive, liberal, progressive leftist who pays close attention to politics, because like day after day, week after week, it's just going to be the same exact post, just worded slightly differently by all these people for weeks on end until they find just this new thing to just talk about constantly. Like I said before, like it goes from Ukraine to Palestine to Venezuela. Sometimes they switch off between that and the Epstein files. And then, of course, they're peppering it in with like constantly with Trump this, Trump that, Trump. All right, Team Tallarico. Trump is gerrymandering Texas. Trump is? I don't think Trump has direct jurisdiction over the Texas state level system, because his policies are unpopular. They're kicking millions off their health care to fund tax breaks for billionaires. Okay, well, if Trump is so unpopular, then how come he won the popular majority? How come he took every single swing state away from Kamala Harris? How did that happen if he's so unpopular? But so they're trying to rig the results of the next election. I mean, yeah, we've also been down this road too. I mean, I seem to remember that, like back with Al Gore and George W. Bush. Oh, they stole the election. They rigged the election. Same with Hillary Clinton. The Republicans, they rigged it. They stole it. We cannot allow this to become normal. Yeah, I know. Like we've already
to zoom out
been
and
over this
recognize
over and
why
over
the
again.
president, the most powerful man in the country, is doing this. It's
Oh, you
because
hate
his
it, don't you?
policies are unpopular.
President Trump's
He
the
and
most
his
powerful man in the
Republican
country.
colleagues passed the largest transfer of wealth with that big ugly bill. It's going to kick millions of Texans, millions of Americans off their health care to fund tax breaks for billionaires.
No,
They know
Obamacare
that's
took care of that.
And instead of facing consequences at the ballot box, instead of allowing Americans to hold them accountable with their votes, they're trying to rig the results of the next election. We can't allow that to become normal.
I mean, look, the way they word this, they make it sound like that if you live in any place in the state of Texas that appears to be red, that you're barred from voting Democrat. You're not allowed to vote for a Democrat if you're in one of these red areas. It's illegal to vote for Democrats in those areas.
Regardless of what our political affiliations are, because this is not about the Democratic Party. It's about the democratic process. And that should matter to every American, regardless of what party we belong to.
Since this redistricting fight in Texas began, others...
Yeah, but what about the states where there's no Republican representation, but they have a sizable percentage of Republicans? All right, so I paused it so I didn't just waste time typing. So which states have 0 Republican House representatives and a sizable number of registered Republicans? New England states. Connecticut, Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Vermont. They have all Democratic U.S. House delegations, 21 seats in total, with 0 Republicans in the 119th Congress as of December 2025. Among them, New Hampshire, 26% of New Hampshire are registered Republicans. 26%. But yet they have 0 representation. Maine, 27%. Are Republican voters, but they have no House reps that are Republicans. And Vermont, 32%. That's also a sizable amount of Vermont. They have sizable Republican bases compared to the national average of 31%, but yet there's not a single Republican from that state that are currently representing them in the House of Representatives. So, all right. So how many House representatives are in each of these states? Let's find that out. So Connecticut, 5. All D. Maine, there's 2 of them, all Democrats. So, okay, in Maine, I mean, what percentage was it? Like 20, where was it? Let's see, Maine, 27%. So, okay, you know, I could see that Maine wouldn't have any, just because they only have 2 House reps. Massachusetts, there's 9. There's 9 in Massachusetts, all Democrat in Massachusetts. But yet, okay, so where's Massachusetts? Let me see. 21. I mean, among them, 27. Okay. All right. Well, they don't have that listed. They've got New Hampshire, Maine, and Vermont. So Maine, New Hampshire, 2, Vermont. Okay, just 1. All right. Well, you know, I get that then, because it's less than half. Like in this state of Vermont, for instance, like Vermont's got 32%, which are Republicans, but they only have 1 House rep in Vermont. So, I mean, that makes sense to me that they wouldn't have any representation in the House. Same with Maine, and I guess in what was the other one? New Hampshire or Rhode Island? Or yeah, New Hampshire, 26%. Okay, well, I thought that what about New Mexico? Hold on. Okay, so from Massachusetts, what percentage of Massachusetts are Republican voters? I also threw in New Mexico. How many are registered? How many House reps does New Mexico have? So only 8.4% of registered voters are Republicans in Massachusetts. So that would make sense that none of them have a Republican in office. So is it gerrymandered? I don't know, man. If there's only 8.4% who are registered Republicans, probably not gerrymandered, but maybe, I don't know. So New Mexico, 32% of registered voters are Republicans as of July. And New Mexico has 3 House reps who are all Democrat. So it's almost like, like a third, 32%, pretty damn close to that point. So there could be an argument to be made that New Mexico may be gerrymandered to a certain extent. That would prevent a Republican from winning a congressional district in New Mexico. What else did I come up with? What percentage of California registered Republicans and what percentage of House seats are held by Republicans in California? So 25.2% of registered voters are Republicans in California as of February. And Republicans hold 9 out of 52 House seats, which is 17.3% in Congress. So California sounds like it's clearly been gerrymandered. And they just passed that Prop 50 or Prop whatever that California is going to use to what sounds to me like deliberately gerrymander California to try to offset what they believe that Texas did, which they believe that Texas was gerrymandering to pick up more House seats for Republicans. So California's like, well, we're going to clap back and do the same thing on our side. So we're going to strip 5 House seats away from Republicans in California to make it more fair. So I don't know. It's going to be challenged in the court system. At least that's what the Department of Justice has come out and said, that they're going to fight against what California did with that proposition. So I don't know. We'll see where all that goes. But anyway, oh man, back to Pocahontas again. At a citizenship ceremony, Trump officials asked immigrants, what country are you from? Instead of being allowed to pledge allegiance to America, some were rejected due to where they were born. Yeah, I'm sure it didn't happen that way. This happened in Boston. It's outrageous and un-American, and it must stop. Immigrants kept from Faneuil Hall citizenship ceremony as feds crack down nationwide. I'm sure some of that might have been taken out of context. I wonder how many, let's see how many posts that she made that has the name Trump in it. So the last one an hour ago, Donald Trump. She reposted that one. Trump, another one. Trump, another one. That's 3 for 3. And let's see, is Trump in this one? Oh, yep, there he is. Trump, that's 4 for 4. 4 in a row. Let's see, is there one? Oh, there it is. Donald Trump. There he is again. That's 5. 6, Trump. Let's see, another one. Any more? So this would be the 7th one. Oh, there's got to be a Trump on it. There it is, under Donald Trump. There's Trump again. What is that, 7? 7 in a row. Donald Trump there. It's 8. 8 in a row. Trump, 9. And come on, let's get it. Let's get 10 in a row. CDC's. Oh, no, we didn't get the 10 in a row. Damn it. Pocahontas, you disappoint me. Thought we were going to get 100% out of your 10 most recent posts, which is just going to be Trump, 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 Trump. Yeah, somebody's a little bit obsessed with President Trump. I think somebody likes Donald Trump probably a little bit more than they really should. They're just not talking about it. All right, so those were just like responses that I made to earlier posts. Anyway, I'm going to move to Rep. Dan Goldman. For more than 125 years, the Supreme Court has affirmed what the Constitution plainly states. Anyone born on U.S. soil is a citizen. Trump's hateful effort to end birthright citizenship is unlawful and rooted in bigotry. Oh, he's so bigoted. We must defend this bedrock principle. The 14th Amendment isn't a suggestion, which is very disingenuous, because we all know why these foreigners are coming over here. Like, there's a reason that they don't travel to into the U.S. until they're on the verge of having birth. I mean, that's the whole point. They're doing that only to take advantage of Americans, to take advantage of America. That's what they're doing. And Democrats, it's just one more way that they can flood the country with more and more immigrants. And anyway, so ACYN Supreme Court, Justice Bennett announced it's going to take up a challenge to President Trump's order lifting birthright citizenship. They're going to hear on it. And of course, is he going to say, well, the Supreme Court, I mean, if they end up going in Trump's favor and they do end birthright citizenship, is he going to say, well, the Supreme Court did it, so I guess it's just going to have to be the new normal now? No, of course not. Even the Supreme Court, they're bigoted too. They're a bunch of bigots. Senator John Hickenlooper, ICE agents are separating families. Armed, masked individuals in civilian clothes are pulling people off the street and into unmarked vans. All this with zero transparency and zero accountability. Yeah, this isn't inciting violence at all. This isn't violent political rhetoric at all. That's why this week we launched an inquiry into ICE's unlawful obstruction of congressional oversight. We need answers. Whatever. Rebecca Kelly Slaughter was an outstanding counsel for me for 7 years before I championed her nomination to the FTC. She was fired by a vicious and reckless Trump administration in violation of the law. This is a test for the Supreme Court. Will they break precedent and further empower a dangerously autocratic executive branch? That one got ratioed. I actually haven't paid attention to the last several. Yeah, that one got brutally ratioed, like 4-1. All right, so Rep. Adelita Grijalva, Arizona AG Mays is spot on. Trump has got his priorities backwards. Law-abiding neighbors who have called this country home for decades deserve to live in peace and with dignity. AZ Attorney General Chris Mays. Federal drug and human trafficking prosecutions are down under Trump, but now it's not the time to ease up on the cartels. He should help states like Arizona fight traffickers, not chase maids and landscapers around cities like LA and Chicago. All right. Rapid Response 47. Ilhan Omar says that Somalis in Minnesota are actually the victims of massive fraud scandal, in which 91% of the perpetrators are of Somali descent. It's been really frustrating.
Of the 87 people charged, all but 8 are of Somali descent. And that has added to the spotlight being put specifically on your community.
Yeah, why so many?
Why do you think
she doesn't like to hear
was
that.
allowed to get so widespread?
Well, I want to say, this also has an impact on Somalis because we are also taxpayers in Minnesota. We also could have benefited from the program and the money that was stolen.
Well, yeah, a few of them
so
are probably
it's been
taxpayers.
Really frustrating for people to not acknowledge the fact that we're also as Minnesotans, as taxpayers, really upset and angry about the fraud that has occurred.
Okay, so you admit that there's 89, 90% of Somalis in Minnesota are committing fraud, or not that. I misspoke. Like 90% of those who have committed fraud are Somalis. So she's actually admitting to that, and I get what she's saying. She's like, well, there's some Somalis who are taxpayers, and as taxpayers, then they were defrauded too because they're paying taxes and those taxpayer dollars were defrauded. I mean, as long as you admit that, that reality is in fact real. So Kelly Morrison, the American people deserve to feel protected by their president, not attacked by him. Is this going to be all chopped up? I have a feeling.
I don't want him in our country.
Oh, yeah, it's all chopped up.
She's garbage. Her friends are garbage.
This is the president calling a sitting member of Congress and thousands of beloved Minnesotans garbage. This kind of attack is unacceptable, especially considering everything our country and our state have gone through this year. We just lost Minnesota Speaker of the House, Melissa Hortman, and her husband, Mark.
Yeah, criminal illegals are garbage. We don't want criminals in our country, lady.
Stop. The American people deserve to feel protected by their president, not attacked by him.
I don't want him.
Well, and our president deserves to be respected by everyone, and he's clearly not being respected by anyone on the other side of the aisle. They sure did, Elon Musk. He's responding to Natalie F. Danielishin, and she says, what? Remember when the EU issued a formal letter to Elon Musk demanding that he censor Donald Trump in their interview during the presidential election? Because I remember. Elon didn't censor Trump, by the way, so this is really an attack on both Elon and Trump. Interesting. So, I don't know. Very hard to read, but it's a very long-winded one, so I'll just move on there. But I'll repost it, though. It's like 31,000 people reposted that. So, Ruben Gallego, we had a bipartisan House deal ready to go. It would have cut red tape and helped more families finally buy a home. House Republicans just killed it, probably because it's unreasonable. When Democrats are back in charge, we'll pass this and put the dream of home ownership back within reach. Yeah, so what? So, like, allowing people to get a down payment completely paid for by taxpayer money, and then they get into a house that they have no business getting into in the first place because they clearly can't afford it. Like a low-income family who makes, I don't know, like $30,000 a year, they're going to be put up into a $600,000 house because the government gave them a 10% down payment on their house, and now they've got like a $3,000 mortgage that they obviously can't afford, and so they're going to get foreclosed upon. Most likely. So I honestly don't even know what the hell this bipartisan housing deal. I don't even know what that pertains to. All right, so I dug a little bit into it. So the actual Road to Housing Act of 2025, that's what it is, or S2651, is a bipartisan Senate bill focused entirely on boosting affordable housing supply through regulatory reforms, zoning changes, financing updates, and grants. It passed the Senate in October of 25, but was recently stalled/killed in the House by Republicans over concerns about federal overreach and costs. So how would the bill increase the supply of affordable housing in America? Short version, Road to Housing Act of 2025 key supply boosters forces states and localities to allow more quote-unquote by right multifamily and accessory dwelling units, or ADUs, near transit or jobs. And it cuts NEPA/environmental review delays for most housing projects. And it streamlines federal permitting, which is 30 to 90-day shot clocks. And it modernizes FHA financing rules to make condo and small multifamily loans cheaper and easier. They ought to put something in there to nuke HOAs, or at least heavily restrict their ability to create, all the bylaws and bullshit. Anyway, $1 billion in competitive grants to cities that eliminate the most zoning barriers and reduces parking minimums and lot size rules in federally funded areas. The result would be faster approvals, lower development costs, more units built, especially missing or middle and naturally affordable housing. And do Republicans have a plan to pass affordable housing legislation? The short answer is yes, but limited and mixed. Republicans are advancing the bipartisan Affordable Housing Credit Improvement Act of 2025. Hope that doesn't just involve doing what I figured that this bill that was just killed would be just to drop down payments into people's laps, because that's not going to fix anything. And Tenney, so led by Reps LaHood, Republican of Illinois, and Tenney, Republican of New York, with 100+ co-sponsors, it expands the low-income housing tax credit by 50% to finance 200K more affordable units over 10 years via incentives for developers. All right, sounds like they're just going to dump more money into it. I don't know if that's going to bring down the cost of housing, but state-level efforts include Wisconsin Republicans' package for ADUs, streamlined planning, and buyer loans. Nationally, Trump's agenda ties mass deportations to housing relief, projected $5 a month in rent savings, but no standalone bill yet. House GOP fiscal year 2025 budget cuts HUD by $2.3 billion, blocking progress on vouchers and grants. Overall tax credit focus over spending with uncertain passage. All right, well, yeah, so they are working on it. I guess we'll see where that ends up. Richard Blumenthal, let's see, ICE detaining U.S. citizens is hideously. No, I get it. So ICE detaining U.S. citizens is hideously widespread, as documented by my permanent subcommittee on investigations, which is holding a spotlight hearing with the House Oversight Committee on Tuesday. Detained citizens will be our witnesses. Accountability our goal. And as governor, my agenda will be all about putting Texans first. Gina Hinojosa. Not familiar. I mean, what are you, a Democrat? Are you a Republican? I don't see which. I don't know. Okay, so hold on. Much easier for billionaires to profit. Yeah, she's a Democrat. She's probably a Democrat. Making housing affordable in Texas, holding private equity and institutional buyers accountable. As governor, I'll keep more money in small business owners' pockets. Trying to be in the middle of the road here. Expand. Oh, there it is. Day one as governor, I will work to expand Medicaid in Texas. That sounds like a Democrat. Here it is today. Greg Abbott got what he wanted all along. He cheated Texas voters out of real representation in Congress to rig the game for his friends. Yeah, she's 100% a Democrat. Absolutely. Yeah, good luck with that, lady. All right, Aaron Reichlin Melnick. This is false, as the Supreme Court spelled out very clearly 125 years ago. Yeah, we basically already heard all that. So children of diplomats. All right, hold on. Subject of the jurisdiction thereof refers to 3 categories of exceptions, 2 ancient and 1 uniquely American. Children of diplomats, children of occupying soldiers, and Native Americans. You know what? Here, let me just play this first. I just realized there was a video here.
We're so desperate to return to a time when,
she's running for Texas
our
governor.
Neighborhood schools were under attack, right? We should be able to have that. We will have that when I am governor. Same thing when it comes to housing. Home ownership should be within reach. That is a dream that should be attainable for our kids, for the next generation.
Again, typical Democrats, they point out a problem without offering a single solution. How are you going to bring down housing in Texas, lady? Are you going to hold the local property appraisal offices accountable? Because apparently there's a lot of interesting goings-on apparently happening at the local level with property appraisal offices happening in Texas. Apparently they're getting sued because they were jacking up the quote-unquote value of houses in the area to have the ability to take more money out of them in the form of property
Same with
taxes.
healthcare. Affordable, quality healthcare is attainable. Other countries have figured this out. We can do this too. So don't let them tell you it can't happen in Texas. It already is. We're so desperate.
How is the affordable healthcare happening in Texas? I'm sure a lot of people in Texas would like the answer to that. Ron DeSantis, many simply ignore the language that one must be subject to the jurisdiction of the U.S. to qualify for birthright citizenship. It obviously was meant to narrow who was eligible. Otherwise, the language could have simply said anyone born in the U.S. is automatically a citizen and left it at that. And he replied to Randy Barnett, all concur that being born in the U.S. is not enough. One must also be subject to the jurisdiction of the U.S. And, oh wow, he's got a whole long string of posts. It's a whole thread. There were 3 classes of persons thought not to be subject to the jurisdiction of the U.S. Native American tribes, diplomats, invading armies. The citizenship of the children in these classes was determined by the status of their parents. Most concur that subject to the jurisdiction was not a closed set comprised of these 3 classes and only these 3, but that these classes fell under the concept of subject to the jurisdiction of the U.S. Other classes might also qualify. So the legal debate is over the original meaning of subject to the jurisdiction of the U.S. I think most would have to concede that this must mean more than mere physical jurisdiction, or the second requirement of jurisdiction would be identical to the first requirement of birth in the U.S., but some may disagree. What else did it mean? The question raised by the president's executive order is whether A, those who entered or remain in the territory of U.S. unlawfully, and or B, those who are temporary visitors to the U.S. fall within the concept to which subject to the jurisdiction referred. So when listening to debaters, focus your attention on their theory of subject to the jurisdiction. Upon what evidence do they rely in support of their proposed theory or concept, and does it reduce to mere physical presence? It's also possible that the original meaning of subject to the jurisdiction was ambitious or vague, in which case it will require constitutional construction in addition to interpretation to determine its meaning. If so, in my view, faithful constitutional construction relies on the original ends, objects, functions, or purposes of the language in the context of the clause in which it appears. See link below. And that is going to be on scholarship.law.georgetown.edu. And this is The Letter and the Spirit, a Unified Theory of Originalism. And the publication date is in 2018. Concept of constitutional construction is of central importance to originalist theory, but is both underdeveloped and controversial among originalists. Anyway, yada yada. That'll be linked below. I'll just link that in the description. In sum, the question presented is not as easy to answer as some contend. Neither is it as complicated as it often seems from listening to the arguments of both sides. Don't be distracted. Keep your eye on the ball. Buckle up, because it's going to be a bumpy ride. And pointing down to fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy ride. And obviously it's just a GIF. All right, let's head back. Back again. No, yeah, here we are. Pramila Jayapal. Immigrants cannot receive timely court dates and fair treatment under the law if there aren't enough judges to serve them. Republicans know this. They just don't care. No, they're actually calling on attorneys out there to apply to be immigration judges. I've seen that. And you know what? Next time, I'll actually make a note of that. Next time I see a post, it might be the Justice Department. I can't remember if it's Homeland Security or the Department of Justice. They've posted several times posts about them searching for immigration attorneys that are interested in becoming immigration judges, because the Trump administration has acknowledged, and they do acknowledge, that there is a shortage of immigration judges, and they want to drastically beef up those numbers so they can get as many of them processed through as possible. So Katie Porter, we can't solve the housing crisis with old ideas. We need the government to put some skin in the game. Yeah, just let the government take care of it, because that totally always works. The state should be piloting new housing projects focused on areas of deep underdevelopment or underinvestment, not development, underinvestment, using public land in strategic ways to reimagine what housing can look like. More dense housing requires more investment in parks, rec centers, and community space. Let's build it. When I first ran for Congress and made housing part of my campaign, people told me housing isn't the government's problem. Bullshit! Housing or high costs and homelessness aren't inevitable. They are a direct result of our policy choices. Yeah, just like printing trillions of dollars out of nothing, money that people didn't labor over. Instead, they just used COVID as the excuse to do so, which essentially inflated us beyond belief, skyrocketed the cost of fucking housing.
I don't want you to think about this process as picking a candidate. I want you to think about it as picking a partner. So if people are not spending time listening to you now, they sure as shit aren't gonna spend the time when they're elected. But you have ideas on how to get kids to school on time. And you have ideas on how to prevent truancy. You know where people fall out of the probation system and wind up back incarcerated. The affordability piece, people treat that like it's inevitable, that things are always gonna cost more. It's not. Our housing costs here and our homelessness problem are directly connected to our policy choices. I think my biggest frustration with housing has been over and over again. When I used to talk about this, when I first ran for office, people would say, that's not a government problem. Bullshit. This is chronic underinvestment in our population that's going to be our next generation. One,
I'd love to know what state she's from. I don't know what state she's from.
We got to build it faster. Second,
having hilarious if she's from California.
Targets, thinking about a combination of not just the we'll see you someday, but carrots. The government putting some skin in the game. So that means using some of our land in smart and strategic ways.
Well, in other words, the taxpayer.
To build exciting housing pilot projects.
We need to take more money from the American citizens.
What housing could look like. If we're going to build more dense housing, we have to plan differently for parks and recreation and public space. We don't do a lot of our jobs today the same way that people
Sounds like
did
more roads to hell being
ago.
paved with good intentions.
That's true for housing, whether it's materials that we're using, whether it's how we're constructing it, whether it's the design. I think the state.
Yeah, definitely. You got to remove a lot of that red tape nonsense and all this over-regulations of housing, and also ensuring that they build houses well, and that they somehow get the cost of lumber down. I think lumber is still quite expensive, and the quality of the houses that they're building today, I mean, I don't even want to get started with that.
Can pilot some of those and build some of those in areas where we know we have deeply underinvested in housing. I'm a minivan driving mom, and I care a lot about my kids. I care a lot about making sure they have what they need now as kids, but also in their working lives. And I think that's just a different perspective than we've had in the governor's office.
All right, so what state is she from? I have no idea who this lady is. Katie Porter. Who is Katie Porter? Governor. California. Oh my God, that is hilarious. She is from fucking California. It's so funny. We have to take more government money and funnel it into homelessness because the state of California has already spent $24 billion on homelessness, which equates to $130,000 per homeless person in California. And the only result that they got out of dumping $24 billion into California for homelessness is more homeless people. That's all they got out of it. It's absolutely hilarious. Oh my God, that is so funny that she's actually from California. All right, so anyway, Sherrod Brown. Meet Walt. His son has a rare disease that requires a $30,000 treatment every month. Walt is a lifelong Ohioan, but John Husted's health care cuts could force him to move out of the state or even out of the country. I'll always stand with folks like Walt. So anyway, yeah, Walt's got he's got health problems. I think most Americans actually have health problems, and unfortunately, it costs way too much money thanks to Obamacare to get adequate health care. Senator Eric Schmidt, Democrats have completely lost the plot. First, they tell service members to disobey orders. Then they threaten them with lawfare if they don't. They're upset Americans rejected their woke policies, and now President Trump is implementing his agenda to protect Americans.
What we're talking about here, the narco-terrorists poisoning Americans. This attempt to try to focus on a pardon is classic because you've lost the debate now on the narco-terrorist question. Because at the beginning of the week, you had Democrats actually on camera saying you should disobey orders. That's what Senator Kelly and Slotkin were saying. You should disobey orders. And then they went so far as to say that if you don't do that, you might get prosecuted down the road. It's hard to sort of overstate how problematic that is for the chain of command and what it is for a military. The Democrats had their shot at all this, and it was rejected. They wanted to have DEI struggle sessions in our military, transgender surgeries, recruitment was way down. The fact is, under President Trump and now Secretary Hegseth, recruitment is sky high, morale is sky high. They're upset about that because they had an agenda that said that America could be everywhere all at once all the time. Now we have a president that's a realist, focusing on core national interest, including protecting Americans from being poisoned by the narco-terrorists.
Yeah, they want you to be ashamed to be an American, especially if you're a white American. You got to be ashamed. Ashamed of yourself. All right, well, I'm going to cut it there. I've been going on for about an hour and a half, so I think I did enough catching up for the weekend. It's like most just Democrat shit posting for the most part. But yeah, whatever. So that was interesting. So thanks a lot for watching. I'll be back with The Swamp tomorrow. I'm going to do The Swamp Monday through Friday. Every Monday through Friday. Video will post at 11 o'clock p.m. Eastern, typically. At least I usually aim for that time frame. So I'll be back with The Swamp tomorrow. So I hope I'll see you there. Thanks a lot for watching. See you later.